Warm welcome to this presentation. Today I will present Neola Medical's Q2 report together with CFO Gyllenberg. It will be a report presentation in English because of the international interest that we have from investors overseas. So just in summary, it has been a really intensive quarter where we have increased the pace in the market preparations before launch of our lung monitoring medical device, Neola, for continuous monitoring of the lungs of preterm-born infants. And in these market preparations before launch, we include both the regulatory processes, visits to conferences and discussions with clinicians, and also work to strengthen our IP portfolio. We are also increasing our presence in the US by opening an office at Nordic Innovation House Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. So today I will take you through the journey of what has happened for the first 6 months of 2023 with a focus, of course, of the Q2 results. So warm welcome, everyone. So presenting here today, it's me, Hanna Sjöström. I'm the CEO of Neola Medical since 2019. And with me today also have CFO Gyllenberg. And first I will start out by presenting the company, the market, and also significant events during the quarter. And thereafter, Christian will walk you through the numbers and a financial summary. So just to start and give you an overview from an investment perspective, why is Neola Medical such an interesting investment case? Well, first, we have a very large and growing addressable market. The neonatal intensive care respiratory device market is expected to reach $3 billion in 2013, and it's actually growing very rapidly with 5.8% yearly. Importantly, we are also meeting a great clinical need and demand. So the clinical benefits of Neola greatly exceeds those of current monitoring methods, standard of care in today's neonatal intensive care, which is also why we get so much interest from neonatologists over the world. We do also have a very attractive business model. So we have a razor blade model with 1 Neola per bed and disposable probes that are doing the measurements of Neola that needs to be changed daily on the baby's chest. And that really gives us that acceleration in our revenue model. Our technology is proven, so we have most of the risk related to the technology already behind us. So it's proven, and Neola has demonstrated positive study results in lung measurements of newborn infants in several studies. We do also have a highly experienced team, so our board of directors and management have a vast experience in medical technology innovation, commercialization of innovation. So we do have a lot of internal knowledge that is really benefiting our journey now as we're moving towards an international market expansion. So why is Neola needed, and why do I believe that we are seeing a great success coming at us? Well, the background is that never before have we had so many cases of babies born too soon. So it's as much as 1 out of 10 babies that are born too soon and may depend on neonatal intensive care for their survival and also for their long-term development outcomes. So the fact is that preterm birth is the most common cause of death for infants under the age of 5 after pneumonia, but also respiratory failure is the leading cause of death in preterm-born babies. And it's because their lungs are very underdeveloped in preterms. So with that and the number of babies that are being born preterm, caused by a lot of the success in fertility treatments that leads to more twins and triplets all over the world, especially in the US, but also in general, mothers being older, more than 40 years older when they're having their babies, which is also a risk factor for preterm birth. Well, we can see that that's really implicating our addressable markets, which is it's huge. So we see that growth in preterm birth, the increase in number of neonatal care clinics around the world is impacted by that. And of course, then we see the large medical need for better neonatal care, which also translates into a high demand for technological innovation within this field. And especially the US is a very attractive market opportunity for us due to the particular high rate of preterm birth in the US. They also have expanded their neonatal care during many years, which leads to that they now have more than 22,000 beds in neonatal intensive care units, which around 50 to 70% of them are relevant for our medical device, Neola, according to a very extensive market research that we have done with US neonatologists and hospital directors. So we're coming with a completely new innovation to this market, and we also get a lot of great interest from the market. And it's actually no surprise because this is a very underdeveloped market when it comes to technological innovation. So new modern technology that offers continuous monitoring of the lungs is definitely needed within our field to upgrade today's standard of care. Because we have the preterm-born infants that are very vulnerable, their lungs are not yet developed, and current competing monitoring methods are clearly insufficient. So the methods used by neonatal healthcare professionals today involve manual observation, so a lot of visual observation by the nurses. You also include help from chest x-rays, blood samples, and pulse oximetry. So all of these standard methods that are very old-fashioned, and in the case of chest x-ray and blood sampling, that is also can be both invasive for the baby, but also something that the neonatologists definitely want to avoid because of the risks these methods have for the babies. So also the current monitoring methods only give a snapshot of the lung status, and they're also often very slow to show results. So, and all of the handling with these methods are really disturbing to the infants. So with our new monitoring methods, Neola, we then offer a continuous monitoring of the lungs, which is very fast to show results, so actually below seconds to show results. And it's very safe for the infant's vulnerable skin and non-invasive. And also because can be monitored 24 hours, so all the time, it's also not disturbing for the infants, but also the likeliness of catching a complication is, of course, so much larger. So this is exactly what the neonatologists are looking for the next technology innovation within the field. And that's why we have developed Neola, Neonatal Lung Analyzer, which is then our medical device offering non-invasive continuous monitoring of the lungs with that instant detection of complications to let us save more infants and also let them live a healthier life without severe complications. So this is the first time in a quarterly presentation where I can actually also show a live screen. So this is what the actual doctors and nurses will see in the clinic as we come to market. So what they will see here are the free oxygen gas concentration inside of the lung and the lung volume changing in real time. So this is a real-time information that they haven't had before. And why is that important for them? Well, it provides them with an objective decision support for very clinically relevant parameters, such as changes in lung aeration and lung function development. So the neonatologist can scroll back in time to see how the lung function develops over time, also see how that develops right versus left lung. What they also can see when they scroll back are slow trends that are highly difficult for the nurses and doctors to discover today. So what that asks, the questions that they then have is this baby getting more stable or in a worse condition? These are questions that they, with today's monitoring methods, have very hard time to answer, and they will give that objective decision support by Neola. So with that, they can also then not only see the trends, but they can also see very important instant changes like pneumothorax or an atelectasis, which can cause very severe damage and even death if left untreated. And today, a lot of these babies are left untreated for too long time, and that's why they get a lot of brain damage, and they get problem with their sight impairment. They have disability problems with their movement, and that's also why it's so important that we find these complications in the babies as soon as possible. And this is, of course, also from a commercial perspective, highly interesting. So what I present here today is really new precision care, upgrading today's standard of care. And we are able to offer then faster detection of pulmonary complications that may prevent further major morbidities, a decrease in the number of days in a very expensive neonatal intensive care, but also potentially a decreased time in visual observation by the nurses. So today in the US care, there, for the very sick babies, you have one nurse per baby watching the baby at all times. For the not so sick babies, you still have one nurse per two babies watching the baby. So that also indicates that there's a lot of support needed from technology in today's care in order to decrease that manual observation. So with that background, our focus for 2023 are within 3 areas. The first one are studies for technical verification and clinical validation. And here where we are working very intensively with the technology verification studies and external test sites. And we're also then planning for our preclinical study and a human factor study that is planned for later this year. And that will take place in the US. Also, what's coming up as a very important part of that study protocol is the clinical study that we will do in the US beginning of next year with an academic partner. So that is very exciting and a milestone to really note down and to keep following us on. Number 2, the regulatory work is also in a very intensive phase in the company, where we this quarter filed a so-called pre-submission to the FDA to discuss the study protocol for our US human factors study that will be performed in the US later this year. We are also, number 3, working very intensively with our market preparation work, where we are visiting neonatal intensive care clinics in Europe, and we have also increased our presence in the US. And to the significant events during the quarter, we have participated in the PAS conference for 2023, that is the Pediatric Academic Societies meeting, the world's largest conference for neonatologists coming from all over the world, but specifically also all neonatologists in the US participating as well, who are interested in the latest science and results. So this was a perfect place for us to have. We had several meetings with key opinion leaders discussing the results from our scientific publications, but also explaining more about the in-depth technology behind Neola for continuous lung monitoring. And it was especially especially interesting to see the great response and feedback from the presentation by the Irish research group, who has done several research study on the gas mask technology. And here they also presented some of their scientific results. And it was an opportunity for neonatologists from the US also to dig deeper into the technology and to discuss these results both with us and the Irish research group. So an important event for us in the US. Part of that market preparation is also sales material. I call them sales material for doctors, which is then in our world white papers. So we just before this conference we published a white paper, Neonatal Lung Analyzer: A Breakthrough in Monitoring of the Lungs of Preterm-Born Babies. And this white paper is a summary of all both the clinical and technical studies that has been published, along with an understanding of how Neola may impact in the next generation of care for preterm-born infants. So this document that is available on our website is also something that we are bringing to the meetings with US neonatologists, and it's a great discussion foundation for all of those meetings when we're also discussing potential collaborations and with academic partners. And with that and our US focus, we were also very glad during this quarter that to have been granted a new patent in the US. This patent is of strategic importance to us since it is about new coming innovations on next generation of Neola monitoring device. The patent is about a new method of placing the light source internally in the patient instead of non-invasively on the chest. And this is significantly important because this method may allow us to monitor other patient groups. In the first next step, monitoring children and older children who are under surgery, a situation where their margins are much less than an ordinary person in surgery. And also then, of course, also the potential opportunity to monitor bigger lungs as of adults in the future. And this was, of course, a highly relevant topic during the pandemic. And it's also where we see a great potential market opportunity for us in the future. So that's why to have that patent in the US, our most important market, is of strategic importance to the company's future developments. It was therefore also great to see a significant event after the quarter where we got the trademark Neola registered for use in the US. Since we are now more actively starting to market the Neola trademark in the US, this is of course of importance for our marketing and sales work. So great news also in terms of that, protecting our assets even more. Another great event during this quarter is that we have opened a new office in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, at Nordic Innovation House, and just a 10-minute walk from Stanford University. This new office gives us an important base to have meetings with academic partners, hospital directors, neonatologists, and all the key stakeholders and investors in the US. So we really look forward to spending more time in the US. We know it's important to have feet on the ground and be present in our biggest market. So you will see a lot more presence from us in the US moving forward. So with that, I give over to CFO Christian Gyllenberg to go through the financial summary.
Thank you, Hanna. As we are still in a development phase and we have not yet come to the production and selling phase, the financial focus remains on a stage where expenditures are necessary for the continued development of Neola and the preparation of the company for market launch. However, the extent of spending is also contingent upon the current development phase. In Q2, a significant portion of the development work was carried out in-house to prepare Neola for testing. This resulted in a decrease in external costs, including expenses for consultants and materials, consequently enhancing cash flow in comparison to previous periods. The realized burn rate for the quarter amounted to 1.5 million SEK, with expectations for an increase in the forthcoming quarters as development progresses into new phases. Considering the changing financial landscape in Sweden, the company have previously reassessed the allocation of its liquid assets. This has led to the establishment of a stable and secure interest income, while also ensuring the preservation of the company's liquidity. Regarding the share, no changes has been made to the amount of shares during the period. But in the quarter, the company issued a total of 2.2 million options in accordance with the option programs approved at the annual general assembly in May. With this, the company received 0.5 million in liquidity. When looking at the top 10 of the shareholders, no changes has been made on that list, and we are very happy to see that we have a strong foundation on our shareholders and that they believe in our forthcoming. That was the short summary about the financials, and with that, I give it back to Hanna.
Thank you, Christian. So we have very exciting times ahead of us. We have a distinct path to US market launch, and we follow milestones and we keep them. That's very important to us. We are now in a commercially focused phase where we mainly work with pre-launch marketing activities, technical verification and clinical validation studies, and then also our regulatory process, mainly with the FDA in the US, but also in Europe. So we have very exciting phase coming here moving forward. The studies to come are then the human factors study in the US that we will do with the group that are working with Neola in the neonatal intensive care unit, which is neonatologists, neonatal nurses, and respiratory therapists. So that is a study that is now very much in preparation. We're discussing the final protocol with the FDA, and I hope that that study can be released this fall. We're currently in the technical verification phase that concerns a lot of different technical studies, such as electrical safety, and that's also something that we're going to finalize this fall. And then our upcoming studies are a preclinical study and a clinical study on preterms that we'll do in the US next year. So finally, to give an overview of the upcoming events, this is a summary of our financial calendar and important dates. We really look forward to welcome you at our General Assembly, the 22nd of May, 2024. So please do mark that in your calendars. And with that, I open up for any questions that the audience might have. And I also know that we have some questions by email.
Yes, a few questions that we have received by email. One is, can you tell us a little bit more about your upcoming studies?
Yes, so the next study to be performed, we are actually in the middle of that study, are technical verification studies, and that's a number of different studies that we need to do in order to show, for example, electrical safety. So that we're in the middle of that, and we will continue with that for the coming months and finish during the fall of 2023. The other study that we're in a planning mode for and discussions with the FDA is called human factors study. This is a study that is made with the specific healthcare professional in the US neonatology department that will be using Neola. So that will consist of both neonatologists, neonatal nurses, and respiratory therapists. So that's also a study that we're now discussing together with the FDA, the protocol for. Thereafter, we're having a preclinical study. So that's a piglet study that we do together with University of Copenhagen at their site. So that is a long-term partner to us, and we're really excited about that study as well. All of these studies will be forming what's called our technical file that we will send into the FDA to be reviewed so that they could then grant us the market approval to start launching in the US. And then, of course, our last but not least, our clinical study on preterms will be performed during next year. So that's also in the planning process.
We have received a question regarding the new office in the US. How will this be beneficial for the market launch in the US?
Well, in the US, it's really important to have feet on the ground. So to have an address, a business address in the US is important for many of our collaboration partners, especially within the academic collaboration partners. But it's also sometimes needed for some of the soft money, so grant money that we might also apply for in the US, such as from the NHS, so the National Health Authorities in the US. So feet on the ground is important from that perspective, but also, of course, to be present there. So even though most of our meetings are digital, there's still such a great value of physical meetings with our key opinion leaders, hospital directors, but also US investors.
In the written report, we are talking a little bit about a white paper. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. So this is our first white paper that we're publishing, and it gives a good summary of the clinical need for lung monitoring of preterm-born infants. And then also it gives a summary of all of the published research that has been performed with Neola or with the technology behind Neola. So it gives the reader a really overview, but also an in-depth analysis of the actual data that we have about the technology in our system. And this is something that is so important to have in our discussions with both neonatologists, but also other researchers around the world. So for you who are interested, it's available on our website along with our other published studies.
Thank you. That was all of the questions we have received previously by email.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation today, and I wish you a great day.
Thank you.